We're going to be in the book of Daniel, okay? So if you guys have a Bible, or if you want to open up your Bible app, feel free to go to Daniel chapter 3. That's where we will be. Daniel chapter 3.
No, it's okay.
All right, as we get started, I want to ask you, what are some of the weights that you feel in your life? What are some of the things that weigh you down? What are some things that get you down that feel like weight to you? What are some of those things? This is not a rhetorical one. I'm like really wanting some feedback on this.
Nah, bro, it's okay.
What are some things that like weigh you down?
Homework.
Hold you back, okay? Okay, homework. What else?
Anxiety.
Anxiety, okay, what? Temptations, all right? What else? Did you say something, Mia? Okay, what else? What are some things that weigh you down, that hold you back? Say what? Her teachers? Probably not, but maybe. I mean, sometimes people get in our way, I get it. Hey, Tay, why don't you move up here? Come sit with us. Come on, come scoot on up. All right, so every one of us has some things in our life that weigh us down and that hold us back. Sometimes those things are our own choice. Sometimes those things are just circumstances, right? Things that were out of our control. Okay? Tonight, we're going to be talking about a story, and this is not so much about like the weight of holding us back, but sometimes there are things we have to choose to stand against, even when we know there are consequences. Okay? And then what I really want you to hold on to tonight, as we're talking about this story, is it's faith under pressure, even when God doesn't do what we want him to. Even if he doesn't. Okay? That's the idea back here, is even if he doesn't. Okay? So Daniel 3, 16 through 18. Alright, let's get in here and kind of read the story. Okay, so you have Daniel chapter 3 starting, and actually we're going to start in verse 1. Okay, King Nebuchadnezzar made a gold statue 90 feet tall. 90 feet tall and 9 feet wide. Okay, so imagine 90 feet tall, 9 feet wide gold statue. He set it up in the plain of Dura in the province of Babylon. Okay, so somebody tell me, who is King Nebuchadnezzar? He is the king of, I just said it, the king of Babylon. Okay, what do we know just happened in the beginning of the book of Daniel? Well, actually, the lion's den is after this. I think, isn't it?
Wait,
Pretty sure.
after Daniel?
Yes, lion's den's after this. Okay, so what happened at the beginning of Daniel? Why are we talking about the Babylonians at all?
Oh, because didn't they have to go and like fight or something?
Kind of. Who?
Where?
Daniel, that's right.
Didn't they like not eat?
Yes, right. But why was Daniel in Babylon?
Did they kidnap him?
Why did they kidnap him?
They're just
His favorite.
But why did they kidnap the Israelites? No, it's important, okay? All right, so Israel, right, is a nation under God, okay? Babylon was sent and allowed by God to conquer Israel. Why? Because they were being unfaithful. They were worshiping other gods. They were doing all these things that God told them not to do. And so he allowed another nation, Babylon, to come in and completely ransack the entire nation. He ransacks the city, and then they take the best and the brightest, and they take them away from Israel, and take them to Babylon, and they train them up in the Babylonian way, so that they will be leaders for Babylon in Israel. Right? This is how these giant empires were successful. They would go in and they would conquer a people, and then they would take their young people who could be leaders and train them and send them back to be leaders for that country in their own homeland. Okay, so that's what's going on. Okay, and at this point, King Nebuchadnezzar thinks he's really awesome, so he makes this giant statue. Okay, he sent officials to he sent messages to high officials, governors, advisors, treasurers, judges, magistrates, and all the provincial officials to come to the dedication of the statue he had set up. So these officials came and stood before the statue of King Nebuchadnezzar. And then a herald shouted out, "People of all races and nations and languages, listen to the king's command. When you hear the sound of the horn, flute, lyre, harp, pipes, and other musical instruments, bow to the ground to worship King Nebuchadnezzar's gold statue. Anyone who refuses to obey will be immediately thrown into a blazing furnace." Okay, so at this moment, right, everyone is given a choice. Okay, you guys know what choices are like. Okay, every one of us faces choices every day. Okay, and the pressure of fitting in or bowing to some kind of pressure, right, is always there. And that's what these young men had to stand up against. King Nebuchadnezzar says, "Bow down to my statue and worship it, or what?" What will happen? You get thrown into a fiery furnace. Okay, so they get all these people. I mean, we're talking lots and lots of people, like thousands of people that they've gathered now. There's this 90-foot statue. They make the announcement that everyone has to bow down, and then they blow the musical instruments, and everything starts going off, and everyone bows down except 3 guys. Can you imagine being those 3 young men among thousands of people, and everyone bows down except for those 3? You know, there was actually an experiment done where it was like a waiting room, and they didn't tell people like what was going on. They were just asked to come, and what they would do is there was one person that would come in and sit down, and then they had like one person who was like a plant, and so that person was told to stand up every 2 minutes and then sit down. And so the first person comes in and sits down, and they're waiting for 15, 20 minutes. They don't, they just sit there. There's nobody comes in and talks to them. This other person comes in, doesn't say anything, sits down for a few minutes, and then he starts doing that. He stands up, and he sits down. He doesn't say anything. And he stands up, and he sits down. He doesn't say anything. And before long, the woman notices what he's doing, and so she starts to stand up and sit down. And then another person comes in who's not been told about this, and they come in and they sit down, and they see these other 2 people that every couple minutes they stand up and then sit down. So what do? They stand up and sit down, right? And then they eventually they get like 15 people in this room, and all 15 people are doing it. They have no idea why. And then they send one person in to just sit down and not do it.
Are they not allowed to talk, or are they like talking to each other?
They didn't tell them they can't talk. They just aren't. And so they send this other person to go in there. This other person goes in and just sits down and doesn't move, like doesn't stand up. And the others continue to still stand up and sit down for no reason. They don't know why they're doing it. They're just doing it. And so the point of it, do you know what the point of that experiment was? Like why they did it?
To see if people will fall into the depression.
It's 100. We will almost always go with whatever is happening around us. And so in the case where there was just 1 and 1, right, the person who was standing up and sitting down seemed more confident about what he was doing, and so the other one followed. So when a single person comes in and sees 2 people standing up and then sitting down, and then standing up and sitting down, well, that person's like, well, I don't know why they're doing it, but I guess I'll do it too. Right? And so then when the next person comes in, they've got 3 people and then 4 people. The more the people there are that are doing it, the less likely the person's not going to do it. And then when they send that one person in and they tell them, no matter what, just sit down in the chair, he sits down, but everybody else keeps doing it. Why? Because everyone else is still doing it, and this one person isn't. Right? And that wasn't enough to break that peer pressure. It's kind of the same thing here. Imagine you have thousands of people, and they know, right, the consequence for not bowing down is that they're going to get thrown into a fiery furnace. So not only do they have thousands of people doing this, but they also know the real consequences of this fiery furnace, right? You bow or you die. Like there's no, like that is the choice. And in fact, it says that they stand at the sound of the musical instrument, all the people, whatever their race, they bow down, except for those 3. And so King Nebuchadnezzar flew into a rage, and he ordered that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego be brought before him. When they were brought in, Nebuchadnezzar said to them, "Is it true that you refuse to serve my gods or to worship the statue I've set up? I will give you one more chance to bow down and worship the statue I've made when you hear the sound of musical instruments. But if you refuse, you will be thrown immediately into the blazing furnace. And then what God will be able to rescue you from my power?" Right? From what God could possibly save you? Right? What is Nebuchadnezzar saying?
That your
What's he
God
saying?
is weak.
Huh? He's not even saying that your God is weak. He's saying that there is no God that can stop what I'm going to do to you. Right? In his mind, he is more powerful than any God that exists. This is why he built, what kind of person decides, hey, I think it'd be great to have a 90-foot statue of myself and then make everyone worship it? A guy who thinks he's God, okay? So King Nebuchadnezzar thinks that he's better than any other God that could possibly be. And so he's saying there isn't another God that could possibly do it. And what God will be able to rescue you from my power? But I want you to hear their response. This is verse 16. It says, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego replied, "O Nebuchadnezzar, we do not need to defend ourselves before you. If we are thrown into the blazing furnace, the God whom we serve is able to save us. He will rescue us from your power, your majesty. But even if he doesn't, we want to make it clear to you, your majesty, that we will never serve your gods or worship the gold statue that you have set up." Did you notice that? They said God is able and God will, but they also preface it, right? But if not, but even if he doesn't, do you have a kind of faith? Do you have a kind of faith that can say, even if you don't, God, I trust you? Right? How many times, and I've been there, okay? I've been in the moments where, both ends of this, where I've been praying to God, I'm like, God, I really need this, like, this is really important to me. God, if you love me, like, I'm trying to convince God, you know? That's not really a relationship. I'm just trying to use God for whatever it is that I really want. And then there's also the other side, where like, I know that I've done wrong, and I come to God, I'm like, God, if you would just forgive me, if you would just help me in this situation, I know I'm in a lot of trouble, I know that I've brought it on myself, but God, if you would just save me right now, I will do everything that you ask me to. Right? These promises we make to God, right? That's not what we're called to do. We're called to trust him. And trust means even if he doesn't. It smells like something is on fire.
It's your sermon.
No, I'm serious. Like,
Wait,
oh, it's,
what is
hold
your
on. The
one?
heat. I know. I gotta go back to the outline. But I didn't.
And it's cooked now.
I think it's just for you. because-
No. It's this. The heat kicked on that side.
Oh.
Yeah. So that's why it smells like fire. Okay. So. All right, so let's go to the outline, okay? Because I haven't really, like, I got into the story. All right, so one, when everyone else bows, okay? When everyone else bows, okay? What are you gonna do? You have a choice. And that's what we're talking about. You have a choice. What are you gonna do when everyone else bows to other things? Okay, the truth is, the pressure isn't just from authority; it's from the crowds around you. Right? And that's what Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego are dealing with. They have the whole crowd around them, not just the authority telling them. And then here's the second part, right? They've responded to him and they said, we trust God no matter what happens. Okay? We trust him no matter what. Faith, it's just not knowing that God will give you the outcome you want. It's trusting that he is worth holding on to even when you don't get it. Right? God is not a God that we worship just because we get what we want. God is the God we worship because he loves us and we love him. And it's built on trust. Now, the second point on the outline is the threat is real. The threat is real. The truth is that following Jesus will cost you something. Following Jesus will cost you something. These three men, okay, they have to be willing in this moment to literally give up their lives if they want to follow Jesus, if they want to follow God. And so they are presented the choice, and they tell King Nebuchadnezzar, look, we trust our God more than you. And so Nebuchadnezzar was so furious that his face became distorted with rage. He commanded that the furnace be heated 7 times hotter than usual. Then he ordered some of the strongest men of his army to bind Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and throw them into the blazing furnace. So they tied them up and threw them into the furnace, fully dressed in their pants, turbans, robes, and other garments. And because the king in his anger had demanded such a hot fire in the furnace, the flames killed the soldiers as they threw the 3 men in. So you have this situation where it's so hot that these soldiers who grab the men and throw them in, just by getting close to the furnace, they die. They get consumed by the fire. And so these 3 men are thrown in, and I'm sure in that moment everyone thinks that they are gone for. But suddenly, King Nebuchadnezzar jumps up in amazement and exclaims to his advisors, didn't we tie up 3 men and throw them in the furnace? Yes, Your Majesty, we certainly did. Look, I see 4 men unbound, walking around in the fire unharmed, and the 4th looks like a god. Who is the 4th man? Jesus, right? This is the person of God, the representative, whatever you want to say, but it is definitely God with these 3 men protecting them. And so King Nebuchadnezzar, verse 26, came as close as he could to the door of the flaming furnace and shouted, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, servants of the Most High God, come out, come here. Notice, how does he address their God now?
Most High.
The Most High God. What did he say before they threw them in the furnace?
He wasn't going to do nothing.
What God could possibly have more power than me? And immediately he recognizes, this is not, like, my power is nothing compared to this guy. And so he says, servants of the Most High God, come out. Most High God, come out. And so Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego stepped out of the fire. Then the high officers, officials, governors, and advisors crowded around them and saw that the fire had not touched them. Not a hair on their head was singed, and their clothing was not scorched. They didn't even smell of smoke. All right, so let's follow up here. Okay, 3 was but even if he doesn't, the truth is faith under pressure is trusting that Jesus is worth holding on to even if he doesn't give you what you want. And then 4, God shows up in the fire. The truth is that God doesn't always keep you out of the fire. He meets you in it. He meets you in it. There are times in our life when you are going to face circumstances out of your control. That life is going to feel like it's the end. Like there's nothing you can do. But God will meet you in those moments. Just like he meets Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These 3 men come out of the fire, and it's not that they just didn't die. Like even their clothes didn't even get singed. They didn't smell like smoke. That's crazy.
That's how you spell unsinged.
Unsinged. I think so, isn't it?
That's
I don't
unsinged.
know. How do you...
That's sin.
Oh, unseen.
Singed. Singed. Yeah, that's singed. Sign is G.
Wait, okay, but that's unseen.
Unsinged. I'm pretty sure it's unsinged. Isn't it singed? Singe and then singed? Hey, so, I don't know. I could be wrong. I thought I did it right, but, you know, I'm open to being wrong. Anyway, so, regardless, okay, they don't even get touched by the fire. And so then here's the thing. King Nebuchadnezzar says, praise to the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Praise to the God. Therefore, I make this decree. If any people, whatever their race or nation or language, speak a word against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they will be torn limb from limb, and their houses will be turned into heaps of rubble. There is no other God who can rescue like this. Then the king promoted Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego to even higher positions in the province of Babylon, right? So this king who thought he was the best and the biggest and the most awesome, so much so they built a 90-foot statue of gold to worship that was him, has now recognized who God is. So much so, it doesn't say that he necessarily comes to a personal belief of his own, where he has a relationship with this God or actually wants to please him in any way. But he at least makes a decree that says, if you say anything against this God, you will be torn limb from limb, and your houses will be turned into rubble. Right? He is making a statement here that he recognizes who Yahweh is. So verse 5 is, or the number 5 is, who are you bowing to? Who or what are you bowing to? What is it in your life that you have given ultimate control to? Like, what is it that you allow your life to be controlled by? Do you voluntarily bow down to other things, or do you reserve that only to God? The truth is that when you hold on to Jesus, he holds on to you. Right? Abide in me, and I will what? Remain in you. Right? Abide in you. And so, no matter what you face, when we're talking about life and struggles, and even this idea of even if God doesn't, there's a trust that is stronger and more powerful than just getting what you want. I know that it feels good to be able to pray and then get what you want, but what's better is getting what God wants for you. That's so much better. Because what we want often is so misguided. What we want is so temporary. And it's just for the right now. And we don't know what God's bigger plan is for us. He's trying to prepare us for what he's calling us to do and where he's calling us to go. And we're so focused on, but I want this right now because I want to feel better. I want this right now because I want whatever it might be, X, Y, Z, fill in the blanks. And God's like, just be patient and let me guide you daily so that I can lead you where you need to be because he has a bigger, greater plan. I want you guys to take a minute and think about the serious question of what are you bowing down to? Is there something in your life that is, if not taking the place of God, approaching the place of God? Is there something competing for the attention that you should be giving to God? If you were in that situation right now where there was a king that said, you have to bow down and worship my statue, if you don't die, are you willing to say, all right, I guess this is how I'm dying. And that's okay, because I trust my God. And my God's bigger than what you're telling me right now. That's a hard question. But it comes down to what are you bowing down to? And if there are other things in your life that you're bound down to that's not God, then you're not following him the way that he wants you to. And so tonight I want you to just take a minute and think about what is it that you need to stop bowing down to and allow God to be the rightful king in your life and the only king in your life.